EU's most defiant leader has turned Hungary's election into a geopolitical standoff. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, hours after hosting US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, stunned supporters with claims that foreign power centers are now moving directly into Hungary's domestic politics. Orban says Berlin, Brussels and Kyiv are no longer just debating policy, but shaping Hungary's political future by backing a pro-Brussels leadership change in Budapest. For Orban, this election is no longer about governance. It is about who controls Hungary's veto inside Europe. Here is how the battle lines were drawn.
This weekend in Munich, they concluded a secret pact with the Brussels elite. This pact was brought about in Germany and by Germany. Essentially, this is the joint program of tisza and DK. The first is that they will give up Hungary's veto right in Brussels. They will participate in the financial support of Ukraine and support Ukraine's EU membership. This is their program.
At the Munich Security Conference, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz openly backed speeding up EU enlargement and aligning closely with Brussels on expansion. Merz publicly aligned himself with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on bringing more countries closer to the EU and eventually admitting them as members. He also flagged the unanimity rule as the main obstacle to enlargement. For Berlin and Brussels, unanimity is paralysis. For Orban, unanimity is Hungary's last instrument of power inside the EU.
We have to reopen a new strategy, how to bring these countries closer to the European Union. I don't want to lose you. You are part of the European continent, and therefore you are potentially part of the European Union. And I know that this is a consensus. There is an elephant in the room. Everybody knows that here in this room, who is against it. But we have to overcome that. This is, until now, it's unanimous vote in the European Council to open the next chapter. But we have to overcome that. And the latest after the elections, which will take in April, hopefully we will be able to open the next chapters and to bring you closer and closer to the European Union at the very end as members.
Ukraine's EU bid has become the central pressure point inside Europe. Brussels wants momentum, Berlin wants enlargement, Kyiv wants fast-tracking. Hungary is the main veto holder, resisting all three. Orban argues Ukraine's accession would lock Hungary into financial, political and security obligations without consent. He frames the veto as a national shield against decisions taken elsewhere.
They are the ones who cannot say no to Brussels. They are the ones who carry out Brussels' instructions. They are the ones who give the Hungarians money to Ukraine. They are the ones who would let Ukraine into the European Union, and with that, drag us into the war. Think about it. Imagine what Europe would be like today if, around the outbreak of the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine had already been a member of the European Union. We would all be neck deep, or at least up to our chests, in a war against Russia.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky used the Munich stage to directly target Viktor Orban. The attack was personal, public, and pointed. For Kyiv, Orban is no longer just a dissenting EU leader. He is the primary political obstacle to Ukraine's EU ambitions.
Even one Viktor can think about how to grow his belly, not how to grow his army to stop Russian tanks from returning to the streets of Budapest.
I even want to thank Viktor. You all know who I mean, because in his own way, he pushes all of us in Europe to be better, but so that we never become like him. A person who seems to have forgotten the word shame.
Hungary's election has now become a proxy fight over Europe's future structure. Berlin wants faster enlargement and fewer veto roadblocks. Brussels wants centralized momentum. Kyiv wants accession and political pressure on holdouts. Orban is staking his political survival on resisting all three. The vote in Budapest will decide whether Europe continues as a union of veto-wielding states or shifts toward a centralized political bloc.